Hello and welcome. Thanks for jumping in today as we dig into the life and career of the man who called himself the sexiest man alive, Ravishing Rick Rude. As a kid, I hated this guy. Rude was the perfect villain. He strutted around bragging about his body like he'd invented abs, and he leaned on Bobby, the brain Heenan, every time the competition got tough. I couldn't stand him, which means he was doing the job exactly right. Being great in the ring is one thing, but talking people into the building, building a whole identity just by opening your mouth? Most wrestlers crumble the second the microphone hits their hand. Rude didn't. He had the look, the presence, the delivery, and he knew exactly how to make a crowd hate him in under 10 seconds. And he loved every second of it. He's remembered most for that late 1980s WWE run, easily the peak of his career. As a proud member of the Heenan family, he turned pre-match insults into an art form. He'd grab the mic, tear into the audience, and make them furious before the bell even rang. After winning a match, Rude loved pulling one more stunt. He'd grab a young female fan from the crowd and plant a full, dramatic kiss on her, just to prove he was every woman's favorite problem. It was cocky, ridiculous, and completely on brand for him. Looking back now, years later, I've got nothing but respect for him. The older I get, the more I understand how good he really was. Rude wrestled from 1982 until he retired in 1994 because of an injury, and he had one final match in 1997. That's a long run for somebody who spent his whole career getting hit in the head and smiling about it. The list of accomplishments is stacked. 4-time world champion, 3-time WCW International World Heavyweight Champion, 1-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, 1-time WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, 1-time WCW United States Heavyweight Champion. Nothing handed to him, all earned. He also got real shots at the WWF World Heavyweight Championship and the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on pay-per-view. And yeah, he headlined SummerSlam 1990. That alone tells you how seriously the industry took him. After retiring from the ring, Rude shifted into managing other wrestlers. And he didn't just show up, he jumped straight into one of the hottest acts of the era, D-Generation X. On November 17, 1997, during the peak of the Monday Night Wars, he became the only person ever to appear on WWF Raw and WCW Monday Nitro on the exact same night. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2017, which was long overdue. Rude was born in St. Peter, Minnesota, to Richard Clyde Rude and Sally Jean Thompson. That's where the story starts. He studied at Robbinsdale High School in Robbinsdale, Minnesota, alongside Tom Zink, Brady Boone, Nikita Koloff, Kurt Hennig, John Nord, and Barry Darsow, all of whom would later pursue careers as wrestlers. He shared a particularly strong bond with his childhood companion, Kurt Hennig. After completing his studies in physical education at Enoch Ramsey Community College, Rude briefly worked as a bouncer before giving arm wrestling a try. It was during this time that he gained recognition in the world of professional wrestling. Rude received training as a wrestler from Eddie Sharkey, who was also responsible for training notable wrestling talents such as Bob Backlund, the Road Warriors, Shawn Michaels, Austin Aries, and Eric Rowan. In 1982, he entered the world of wrestling under the name Ricky Rude, working as a good guy jobber. His first appearance on television didn't go well, as he lost to Josh LeDuc on the November 6, 1982 episode of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. After his time in Vancouver's NWA All-Star Wrestling, he went on to compete in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and then in the Continental Wrestling Association, based in Memphis. Rude made his first appearance on the May 28, 1983 episode of World Championship Wrestling, where he defeated Pat Rose using a dropkick. The following week, Rude was interviewed by Gordon Soley, during which he had talked about his transition from arm wrestling to professional wrestling, and how he had to lose weight in order to improve his speed. In 1984, Rude returned to Memphis with a new persona as Ravishing Rick Rude, a cocky and arrogant villain managed by Jimmy Hart. He engaged in feuds with Jerry Lawler and later his former tag team partner King Kong Bundy. Rude also had a match in WCCW against Kamala, which he unfortunately lost. He then moved on to Jim Crockett Promotions, an affiliate of the National Wrestling Alliance, where he teamed up with various partners to feud with the Road Warriors. Rude was brought on board by Championship Wrestling from Florida in December 1984, with Percy Pringle serving as his manager. On January 16, 1985, Rude beat Pez Whatley and took the NWA Florida Southern Heavyweight Championship. Clean, simple, and straight to the point, he walked in hungry and walked out with gold. The celebration didn't last long. He dropped the title to Brian Blair on April 10, 1985. Rude hated losing, and you could tell. The man wore frustration like it was part of his gear. But he wasn't staying down for anybody. On July 20th, 1985, he fought through the Southern title tournament, made the finals, and beat Mike Graham to take the belt right back. Rude treated the championship like a personal argument, and he wasn't letting anyone else have the last word. On April 16th, 1985, Rude teamed up with Jesse Barr to grab the NWA Florida United States Tag Team Championship. They were a powerhouse duo, facing off against Billy Jack Haynes and Wahoo McDaniel in brutal, high-stakes matches. In October 1985, Rude made his debut in world-class championship wrestling, stepping back into the ring alongside his manager, Percy Pringle. From the moment he arrived, he made it clear he wasn't there to make friends. He was there to dominate. He immediately dove into high-profile rivalries, targeting Kevin Von Erich and Chris Adams. Both were tough, respected, and ready to throw down, but Rude didn't care about reputations. Then things shifted. On February 20th, 1986, WCW split from the NWA and rebranded as the World Class Wrestling Association. The World Heavyweight Championship got a new name, the NWA American Championship. And Rude? He was still holding the belt, still standing tall, still proving he belonged at the top while the landscape around him changed. This made Rude the first world champion in the promotion. In July 1986, he lost the title to Chris Adams and subsequently dismissed Pringle as his manager for a brief period. He enlisted his sister, Raven, as his replacement manager. Rude formed a tag team with the Dingo Warrior, but their partnership was short-lived as the Warrior betrayed him and turned into a fan favorite. In September 1986, Rude made his return to Jim Crockett Promotions and teamed up with Manny Fernandez and their manager, Paul Jones, to feud with Wahoo McDaniel. Rude and Fernandez, collectively known as the Awesome Twosome, captured the NWA World Tag Team Championship on December 6, 1986, by defeating the Rock and Roll Express. This victory sparked a heated rivalry between the two teams, which only came to an end when Rude departed for the World Wrestling Federation in April 1987. I hope you're really enjoying the video so far. Let me ask you something. Do you think Rick Rude was a major player in professional wrestling, or was he just another pretty face? If you believe he was a big deal, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. It's a simple click for you, but it tells me a lot about how many of you want more hardcore, no BS wrestling content like this. Every subscription tells me that I should keep digging into these stories, keep exposing the legends, the heat, and the chaos behind the curtain. So, if you're a true fan, show it. Now that I've got that off my chest, let's jump back into the madness and continue breaking down the life and career of Ravishing Rick Rude. On July 15, 1987, Rude made his World Wrestling Federation debut as the newest member of the Bobby Heenan family on Superstars of Wrestling. Rude's first significant rivalry in the WWF ended on November 24th at Madison Square Garden, when he defeated Heenan's erstwhile muscle-bound charge, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, whom Heenan had dropped after Rude joined the family. On January 9th, 1988, Rude stepped into the Boston Garden to challenge Hulk Hogan for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. He didn't win. He got his ass handed to him. But that loss, it lit the fuse for one of his most infamous feuds, Jake the Snake Roberts. Rude had a routine before every match that made fans hate him instantly. He'd strip off his robe, ripping on the crowd like it was a personal insult. He called them fat, out-of-shape sweat hogs from their own hometowns. And yeah, it probably was a jab at Austin Idol's disrobing shtick, but Rude made it his own. Every insult hit hard, every word stung, and the crowd didn't know whether to cheer, boo, or throw something at him. After each win, he would kiss a woman that Heenan had picked out of the crowd. Rude, specifically airbrushed tights, which he wore during matches, were one of his distinguishing features. Rude attempted to get Cheryl, who is Jake Roberts' real-life wife, involved in the Roberts angle, despite the fact that he was unaware of Roberts' marital status at the time of Heenan's selection. Rude got upset after Mrs. Roberts smacked him, and according to Jake, busted his eardrum after she rejected him and told him who she was coming to visit. When Roberts hurried out of the dressing room to attempt the rescue, Rude grabbed her wrist and scolded her over the microphone. Rude entered the ring wearing tights with a stencil of Cheryl's picture on the front. Black spot censoring Rude's genital area gave the impression that he was naked, but the live audience saw him undressed down to a G-string. An enraged Roberts charged the ring and stripped Rude. Rude wore an additional pair of tights underneath his ring tights until the middle of 1988, including during his match at the first SummerSlam versus the Junkyard Dog. Rude had climbed to the top turnbuckle and carried the JYD on his back. During the match, he removed his tights to show off a second pair that bore Cheryl Roberts' image. Roberts, who had witnessed the incident from the dressing room, attacked Rude when he struck the dog with a flying punch. Rude won because of Roberts' attack on him, disqualifying the JYD on October 24th at Madison Square Garden. Rude Awakening versus DDT ended in a loss to Roberts. Rude and Roberts' rivalry ended when Roberts pinned Rude in the 1988 Survivor Series after hitting Rude with a DDT. Rude's first subsequent major rivalry started in January 1989 at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, where he and the Ultimate Warrior engaged in a super pose-down that culminated with Rude striking Warrior with a metal posture bar. Rude defeated the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 5 with Heenan's assistance. However, Rude lost the title to Warrior at SummerSlam of same year, mostly because of Rowdy Roddy Piper's meddling. Rude then feuded with Piper, resulting in a clash between their respective teams at the 1989 Survivor Series, in which both men brawled to a double count out. Rude would go on to have many matches with Piper, including one inside a steel cage on December 28th at Madison Square Garden, losing the bulk of them before briefly facing Jimmy Snuka and defeating him at WrestleMania 6. Rude restarted his feud with the Ultimate Warrior in the summer of 1990, when Warrior won the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Rude began hard training in preparation for the Warrior, taking a more serious approach that included ignoring women and cutting his hair short. The feud culminated in a steel cage at SummerSlam 1990, wherein Rude was defeated by the Warrior. Next, he was set to quarrel with Big Boss Man, which began when Rude's manager, Bobby Heenan, began making disparaging remarks about Boss Man's mother. Rude was supposed to be on the Natural Disasters team at the Survivor Series, competing against Hulk Hogan and Boss Man's squad. But he was replaced by Haku after Jack Tunney had suspended him indefinitely. Tunney revealed that Rude's words about the Boss Man were the basis for his suspension, and that his manager, Bobby Heenan, was required to wrestle the Boss Man in his place. Rude actually left due to a disagreement with owner Vince McMahon. After leaving there, Rude tried to join Herb Abrams, UWF. Rude was still under contract with the WWF when his former company issued a cease and desist order, preventing him from appearing on UWF television. He did not wrestle again until May 18, 1991, when he competed in the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance's TWA, Spring Spectacular 2, event in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He lost to Paul Orndorff via disqualification. 2 months later, he joined All Japan Pro Wrestling Summer Action Series 1991, making his debut on July 6, 1991, during a show in Yokosuka, Japan. In his first match on the tour, he and Johnny Ace defeated Billy Black and Joel Detton. Rude went undefeated in singles matches, defeating Isamu Teranishi and Akira too. His final appearance was on July 19th, when he teamed up with Johnny Ace to lose against Dan Spivey and Stan Hansen in a quiet match that marked the end of his run without any major attention from the locker room. Rude also competed in International World Class Championship Wrestling, where he faced off with the Honky Tonk Man. After a year of wrestling on select independent circuit shows, as well as a July 1991 tour for All Japan Pro Wrestling, Rude returned to WCW, which had previously been Jim Crockett Promotions, before being sold to Ted Turner in late 1988. He returned as the WCW Phantom at Halloween Havoc on October 27, 1991, and unmasked himself later that night. He led the Dangerous Alliance, which included himself, Paul, E. Dangerously, Medusa, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, and Stunning Steve Austin. Rude defeated Sting for the United States Heavyweight Championship on November 19, 1991, and went on to have other high-profile feuds, including one with Ricky Steamboat. Rude and Medusa departed the Dangerous Alliance in 1992, sparking a conflict with Nikita Koloff. Rude challenged reigning World Heavyweight Champion Ron Simmons on multiple occasions, but was unable to win the belt. In December 1992, Rude sustained a serious neck injury and was forced to relinquish the United States Championship, therefore ending his reign of over 14 months. Rude returned alone in April 1993 and attempted to recapture the title from Dustin Rhodes after a 30-minute Iron Man encounter ended in a 1-1 draw. On July 18th, the two were due to face off in a best-of-3 series on Saturday night. Rude won the first encounter on August 28th, but fell to Rhodes twice on September 4th and 11th, ending his chances of regaining the United States Heavyweight Championship. Rude shifted his focus to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, announcing his intentions on August 28, 1993, as a guest on then-champion Ric Flair's A Flair for the Gold talk show. In September 1993, Rude defeated Flair to win the title at Fall Brawl. WCW lost the rights to use the NWA World Heavyweight Championship once it withdrew from the NWA. They had a big decision to make, but they just opted to making their own title for the show. It's just a strap, after all. But very big decision was made to do it. They would name this title the WCW International World Heavyweight Belt, which Rude lost to Hiroshi Hayes on March 16, 1994 in Tokyo, Japan. Rude reclaimed the championship just 8 days later in Kyoto, Japan, after losing the title to Sting on April 17th at Spring Stampede. Rude pinned Sting on May 1st at Wrestling Dantaku in Fukuoka to become a 3-time champion. Rude, on the other hand, injured his back during the match when he landed on the corner of the raised platform surrounding the ring. After receiving a suicide dive at ringside, unable to wrestle, he was stripped of the title with the storyline excuse that he used the title belt as a weapon during the match. Rude retired shortly afterward. Rude collected on a Lloyd's of London insurance policy and did not wrestle again until January 1997, when he joined Extreme Championship Wrestling. As a masked man, Rude made his debut at House Party, claiming that his New Year's resolution was to fuck with the franchise, Shane Douglas. Rude went on to harass Douglas, spanking his valet, Francine, during crossing the line again. He eventually unmasked and became a color commentator before briefly aligning himself with Douglas in his Triple Threat stable. Rude made a one-time comeback to the ring in the main event at ECW Heatwave, 1997, in a 6-man tag team match, teaming up with ECW mainstay Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman to face Jerry Lawler and ECW stars Rob Van Dam and Sabu, only to turn on Dreamer and the Sandman. Rude assisted Lawler in defeating Dreamer and the Sandman during the ECW versus USWA and WWF intercompany competition. Rude returned to the WWF on August 11, 1997, as the insurance policy of the group known as Degeneration X, which consisted of Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna. The term Degeneration X was first used on October 13, 1997. Rude never wrestled while a member of DX, although he was always ringside throughout the group's matches. Rude left a few days later following the Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series. According to Bret Hart, Rude remained in the locker room during Bret's meeting with Vince McMahon following the bout in Montreal, and later called Eric Bischoff to inform him that what had happened was real. Rude was not contracted to a full-time contract with McMahon, and instead worked on a pay-per-appearance basis. Rude was able to reach an agreement with Bischoff and WCW, thanks in large part to his outrage at the Montreal Screwjob. Rude appeared on both WCW, Monday Nitro, and Raw is War with the WWF, because Raw was taped and he appeared on the live WCW event. On the same night, in November 17, 1997, a mustached Rude went on Nitro, which was live, and began to criticize Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, DX, and the whole corrupt company, calling the organization the Titanic, a reference to Titan Sports, the parent corporation of the WWF at the time. Rude arrived an hour later on Raw is War, which had been taped 6 days earlier. With the full beard he had been sporting during his final weeks in the WWF, Rude also featured on ECW's Hardcore TV over the weekend. Rude continued to make ECW appearances while in Degeneration X since the WWF and ECW frequently collaborated. Rude joined the NWO and managed his pal Curt Hennig. Rude became the first wrestler to represent both DX and NWO. When the NWO split, Hennig and Rude initially supported the NWO Wolfpack in May 1998. However, their tenure with Red and Black was limited. At the Great American Bash, they attacked fellow Wolfpack member Conan after he lost to the undefeated Goldberg, prompting Hennig and Rude to join NWO Hollywood instead. Rude and Hennig were both forced to leave WCW in late 1998 due to injuries. Hennig had a leg injury and Rude was assumed to have testicular cancer, but it was subsequently discovered to be a spermatocyte. Hennig returned to the NWO following his injury at Starrcade, but Rude was still unable to appear and was not featured in the NWO reunion in January 1999. Rude officially left WCW in April 1999, and his last appearance was on the April 5th, 1999 episode of WCW Monday Nitro, Backstage Blast. Unfortunately, this would mark the end of Ravishing Rick Rude's career, as sadly, his wife would discover him unresponsive, and he died of heart failure on April 20th, 1999 at the age of 40, just weeks after his last television appearance. According to the autopsy report, he died from an overdose of mixed medications. Rude was preparing to return to the ring when he died. The effects of gamma hydroxybutyrate, a narcolepsy preventive medicine, could have contributed to his death. Bret Hart has revealed that despite his womanizing Ravishing One reputation, Rude was a committed family man who never removed his wedding band before matches, instead covering it with tape during any wrestling match he had. Rick Rude's induction into the WWE Hall of Fame was announced on March 6, 2017. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat welcomed Rude. Michelle, Marissa, and Richard Jr. accepted on his behalf. Well, it's that time again where we have to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed the tragic tale today, and hopefully you've learned something new along the way. If you did, then press the subscribe button to show your appreciation. I don't ask for much, and it's completely free to do, so you might as well hit it while you're here. If any of you out there want to hear about your favorite wrestler or a specific wrestling story you've always wondered about, drop a comment below and I'll dig into it for a future video. I always appreciate seeing what you all want to hear next. Thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around, and take care until the next one.